Thank you, Madam Chair. You're doing a great job today, so appreciate that. Mr. Pickering, I was perplexed a little bit. You were talking with Ms. Houchin earlier about barriers that slow down AI-related infrastructure build-out. And two things that you mentioned were permitting reform and BEAD flexibility. And I think y'all talked about the BEAD flexibility a little bit, but specifically when it comes to permitting reform, what do you envision that looking like from a specific policy standpoint? Like what specifics?
So I'll give you
would
an
aid
example of two successful permitting reforms that have happened in recent history. One was for the small cell deployments that went with 5G. We created a federal framework with shot clocks and time certainty, and that if the jurisdiction did not approve within the time certain, it'd be deemed granted. And so the time certainty and predictability is critical. One touch, make ready, which means that if one fiber deploys on a pole, that they do all the deployments at one time, one touch, instead of doing 6 different, service trucks for each different company. And that accelerated the deployment along poles. So there are some common sense things, but everything is about one touch, dig once, one review, time certainty, those types of principles on permitting reform. And if you can have national projects for grids, pipelines, transmission, fiber routes that are multi-stake, so that you can coordinate a whole of government approach to deploy the infrastructure that we need for the AI race against China.
At least when it comes to the permitting perspective of 6 different points, one different trigger, or one trigger, would that also, in your mind, if a permit was previously issued, say a few years ago, would that also be almost grandfathered in that you could use that existing permit for?
I'll give you an example. If you have multiple agencies, a lot of times they will all require their own environmental review, when you should just have one environmental review that would then be adequate for all the different agencies. And if you have a review that's a year ago or 2 years ago, and then you have a new part of a construction, that previous review should be considered as adequate for the current project if it is not substantially different. And so those types of common sense reforms that I think can protect and preserve our resources in our communities, and at the same time speed the deployment that everybody needs today.
Thank you for that. Mr. Vasishta, NVIDIA is on the front lines of both AI and the telecom infrastructure. What role do you see for AI native wireless networks in the transition to 6G, and how can Congress support companies leading that effort in that transition?
Thanks for the question. As I said in my opening remarks, AI native wireless is really what 6G is going to be about. And what I said earlier is that there's a requirement really for help between public-private partnership to make that a reality. We need a lot of research to come straight to production. So with this AI Wind project that NVIDIA is part of with other companies, we're already embarking upon taking research from, say, MITRE to production with, say, T-Mobile as fast as possible and getting guidance from that. A lot of that relies upon the research that's coming out of the universities. And so the accelerant and the enablement of AI native wireless research. There's only one other company, I said earlier China, but I really meant one other company that's kind of working on this AI native approach, and that's Huawei on the world stage. And so once we are able to accelerate this within the US, we'll then be able to take these same developed platforms out globally, and once again be able to create a global platform for telecommunications within those standards committees.
Thank you for that. And you've emphasized software-defined networks as a game changer. How did these networks enhance both performance and cybersecurity compared to our traditional infrastructure?
Yeah, so traditional infrastructure has more of a closed proprietary system. Now, you might think that's a positive, but the benefit of having software-defined is continuous integration, continuous deployment. So you're able to add features very quickly. You're able to implement new capabilities much faster than if you had to do that in hardware. AI native approaches like integrated sensing and communication, which can be avoid can be threat detection. You can really sense the airwaves for threats. That can be a software-defined feature that can be integrated by defense, but also in commercial aspects.
Thank you for that. I see my time has expired. Madam Chair, I yield back.